Hello friends, welcome to another English language class. Today in our lesson we will be looking at converting reported to direct speech. Converting reported or indirect speech to direct speech. In an earlier lesson we looked at conversion of direct speech to reported or indirect speech. I remember we said that direct speech is when someone is expressing what another person said using exactly that other person's words or the speaker's words. But in the case of reported or indirect speech, it is a way of expressing what someone else has said, but without using exactly the words of that person. It's just the opposite of direct speech. You're expressing what someone else said, but you are not using exactly the words that the person used, unlike the case of direct speech where the exact words of the speaker are used. So today we are going to see how we can change reported or indirect speech to direct speech. In the earlier lesson, we looked at conversion of direct speech to indirect speech, and there were some rules that we pointed out that need to be a kind of adhered to. Some rules that need to be kept when changing direct speech to indirect speech. Rules like pronouns that need to change most of the time. Rules of tenses, that need to also change. When you're changing from direct to indirect, tenses change most of the time from present to past tense or past participle, depending on the way it was used. So today we're going to see how we can convert reported speech back to direct speech. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to look at the rules of conversion. Rules of conversion. The first one here says that the reporting verb is often changed. That's most of the time the reporting verb changes. For instance, ask might become inquire, and something like say might become tell. Okay, some of these verbs they change often or even most of the time. Mind you, before we go on, reported speech is a very vital aspect of communication, whether written or spoken. Okay, they are used most times to report events, tell stories, narrate things, different stuff like that. In different contexts, you find the use of reported speech very vital. Okay, so that's why it's important to understand this concept. So you have to note that reporting verb is often changed when you are converting from reported speech to direct speech. Secondly, the pronoun changes. For instance, I could become he or she, and we could become they. It just depends. Okay, so they in reported speech could become we. He or she in reported speech could become I in direct speech. So that's how it goes. It could be he or she changes to I, or they change to we. When you are converting. And then the third rule here is the tense changes. Remember, when we talked about the conversion of direct to indirect speech, we stressed this aspect. And actually, it's just like a flip of what we discussed in the other part. It's basically the rules that apply there also apply here. Okay, because we're converting back. So the tenses change. In reported speech, most times the tenses are in the past, but in direct speech, they are in the present tense form. Okay, I'm sorry that it's almost written in the reverse. The past changes to present when we are converting from reported to direct. Pronouns like we and they could change to they and I, could change to I, she, and stuff like that when we are converting to direct speech. So that's how it goes. Please just take note of this, and then by the time we start applying these rules, by the time we start taking examples, you're going to see how these rules apply, and then you're going to have a better understanding of the rules. So quickly, let's look at the first example. It says, the first one here, this RS stands for reported speech. Reported speech, and the DS is direct speech. So the first example here in reported speech is, Angela mentioned that she was going to the mall. Angela mentioned that she was going. Remember, they said one of our rules, the ones we just looked at, said that the reporting tense may change. It may change, okay? It's not like it's a hard, fast rule, it must change, but it often changes. So Angela mentioned that she was going to the mall. Now, if you note it, just take note of this reporting verb, right? And also take note of the that and also the was, okay? When we look at the direct speech, you see why I'm trying to underline this or highlight them. Angela mentioned that she was going to the mall. So the first rule there that says that the reporting verb changes, if you look at this one, it says Angela said. So here mentioned is used, but in direct speech, said is the word. Okay, that's just one. And then, I am going to the mall. Now, these are the exact words of Angela. These are exactly what Angela said. Now, you will notice that we have these marks here. These are called speech marks or reported speech marks. So these are speech marks, and they are used, when you see this, it shows the exact words that a speaker used, a particular speaker used when saying those things. Okay, so they are speech marks. This is something that must be used when it is direct speech. Without using this, then there is a problem. This is what tells us that the exact words of the speaker are being expressed here. So Angela said, I am going to the mall. Another thing again I need you to look at is the verb, the tense here. The tense from here, the past tense is used, but here you see it's in the present tense. And again, that I told you to take note of is what replaces the speech marks. Okay? So once you introduce that, speech marks disappear. That is what takes care of the speech mark. Mentioned here has changed to said, and then was has changed to am. So those are some of the rules. I'm just trying to take you back to the rules we explored so that you see how they feature in the examples we are looking at. Remember the first rule, reporting verb is changed. This is the reporting verb is changed, but it could still be it could be retained. Like I say, Angela said that she was going. It's still very correct. So it changes, it often changes, no problem. Okay. So that's the first rule. The second rule says pronoun changes. Here we used she, but here you find that it is I. The pronoun has changed. Remember the second pronoun? He actually said that I could change to she or he, but in this case it's the reverse. So she has changed to I. And lastly, we said that the tense changes. Simple present could change to simple past, but here it is the past that has changed to present. Okay, so you can see that from my examples that the three rules play out here. We're going to take another example, and please just, try to follow what we're doing. So the next example we're going to look at here is John informed, in bracket we have told, and that's just to show us that we could use informed, we could use told. It's the same thing. John informed us, John told us that the movie would be showing the next day. This is a reported speech. That's the ROS you see here. Okay, that's the reported speech. John informed us that the movie would be showing the next day. Now let's see how it looks like in direct speech. Let's see how exactly John said those words. John said, speech marks. Very important. Okay, so you see informed or told, here we just use said. John said the movie will be showing tomorrow. Okay, now if you look at here, we had would, and here we have will. Would is the past tense form of will. Okay, informed, like I mentioned, has changed here, right? And then you find one major difference here. The next day has changed to tomorrow. Now, the day after the day being reported here, a day after a day you are talking or you're doing anything you're doing, any day you're carrying out an action, definitely the day after that day is the tomorrow of that day. Remember, this is reported speech, and reported speech always happens after the action has taken place or after what is said has been said. So for the reporter here to use the next day, that means that when John said what he said, he referred to tomorrow, the tomorrow of that day. Please, these are the very important things you need to take note of. I think this is something we should also add to the rules we looked at. That context could also change, as in the day or the timing could also change in reported speech and direct speech. So John informed us that the movie would be showing the next day, but the way he said it exactly would be the movie will be showing tomorrow. The movie would be showing tomorrow. So you find out that things like next day would change to tomorrow in direct speech. So please just add this to the first three rules that we looked at. Okay, the timing might change. E.g., example, next day becomes tomorrow. And that day, if you have something like that day, sorry, let me just squeeze it in here. That day becomes today. Okay? So next day becomes tomorrow when you're saying it in direct speech, and that day in reported speech becomes today. Okay, those are some essential things you need to take note of. So we're going to take one more example, and that will be it for today. So our last example here for reported speech is, my dad announced that we would be going on vacation the following week. My dad announced that we would be going on vacation the following week. So for the direct speech, it would be dad announced or dad said, we are going on vacation next week. We are going on vacation next week. Now note something. We here remained as we. Why? Because the person reporting this speech is a family member of dad. Okay? Here we're assuming that dad was referring to the family going on vacation the following week. And the speaker is part of the family of dad. So that we is not going to change, because even though dad reported this, the speaker is also a part of that family. So the we is going to be retained. Okay? But if it's a case where it's a neutral person, then the we would become they. Please just take note of it. So when we are converting from direct to indirect or indirect to direct, we need to be mindful of these things. Okay? So normally we would change to they when be reported, or we in direct speech would turn to they in reported speech. But it depends on the context as well. Like the example we're just looking at now. Being a family member, we will still remain as we because it's part. Okay? And then following week changes to next week. When when the speaker was saying it, he was referring to the week following, the week that was coming next. So, but since the report is being given after this has been said, it has to be termed as the following week. Can't say that they say we're going on vacation next week will not apply anymore, so you will use the following week. Okay, so these are some of the examples we look at today. Please, on your own, try and look out for words like this as reported speeches and see if you can change them to direct speech. Try to do it, and the important thing is take note of the rules. Okay, once you've made yourself familiar with the rules, you'll be able to convert them. Conversion is quite simple. Just be mindful of the rules, and that will be it. So this is where we call it a day for today. So we hope to see you again next week. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed.